Hey there, thanks for watching. I am here for another Side Hustle Saturday, and this is the truth of running an eBay business as a side hustle. So I have been doing my books to close out the first quarter. I use one of these weekly bookkeeping books, and I will tell you the single most helpful resource to running a resale online e-commerce website and doing bookkeeping has been I think it's Ambitions Unlimited is her name now. It's Emma. Did a video on eBay and taxes, and I will link that below. Single most helpful resource to me to date. So I use the system that she uses. I also use a spreadsheet on my Google Docs. So I have that going as well. But I like to have things on pen and paper. That's just the way that I work, and I really appreciate that. So that is what I'm doing. And I'm aiming to do this throughout the entire calendar year, January to December. And especially now that I'm looking to scale my business, it's really important for me to have very clear, very understandable, easily accessible records. So I'll kind of go through my my process, and then I'll show you my real numbers. So what I do using this bookkeeping book, it is a weekly book that I'm using as a monthly because I like to have the extra space, the extra pages, but I'm just going to, instead of where it says week, I just replace that with month. I keep my receipts rather than in a separate file, and because I don't have that many of them, I just clip them with a paper clip directly to the actual page, so I know exactly where they are, and I can easily reference if I have an expense. Here's my receipt for it. Even if it's like a PayPal expense, I will print out that sheet and paper clip it behind the month so I know where everything is. And from what the information that I've read and received, it just says that the IRS wants to see a process in place. So even if I pay cash for something, I document it, I have a receipt, I will handwrite a receipt with the date and the amount that I paid and then the number of items. So this isn't going to be a super in-depth, I guess, look at how I do my bookkeeping. This is kind of like an overview of the numbers. Again, the truth of my side hustle on eBay and why I'm not seeing as much actual net revenue as I would like, and here's why. So all I did was I took my eBay sales and then I subtracted out my selling costs. So the sales amount minus selling costs, and that doesn't include other expenses, things like mileage, inventory costs, or like rent, electricity, other things that you can deduct. Because I'm not super clear, I have done some reading. The IRS.gov is a huge resource. But I want to be very clear about that before I start deducting different things like like meals and stuff. So I'm going to start in January. I'm going to tell you my numbers going through. So for January, I had a total sales of $609.23, and my selling costs were $392.61 for total gross profit of $217. Again, that doesn't include expenses or cost of inventory, which is COGS, cost of goods sold. For February, my total sales were $929.83. I really hustled. I was listing like crazy. You remember that month. My total selling costs were $373.47 for a gross profit of $556.02. And that was, so my selling costs alone, just the cost of, from eBay and PayPal, were 40.2% of my total sales. For January, they were 35.5%. So that's super high. That's almost 50% of my total sales, just in eBay and PayPal alone. So that was for February. Then for March, and in March I did buy that bulk pallet from 888 Lots. That was $306, but I'm not including that. So my total sales for March were $413.03, and my total eBay fees were $183.94, which were 44.5% of my total sales. 44% of my total sales, just off the top, were fees and PayPal fees, PayPal and eBay fees, for a gross profit of $229. Then I took off the $306 from the month before, where I had about $500 in profit. So you can see just from those numbers alone, it's a lot of work for really high, with really high costs associated. So that's kind of the simple answer as to why I don't have a ton of net profit coming in, and why I'm making less than I would have thought and able to put less toward getting rid of my debt. So just off the top, that's a quick answer for quarter one. And as I think about really wanting to get serious about getting rid of my debt, I am starting to think about other sort of avenues for earning extra income. I've already spoken about this and looking to put more time and energy into this channel, more energy into my online properties. I have a website and I have a blog that I'm not upkeeping at present, but I'd like to put more energy into that just because I feel like that may be more sustainable form of income going on. So that's where I am currently. I'm also, as I've mentioned before, looking to build other sources of inventory that aren't so difficult and labor intensive to list. But for right now, super high costs and pretty low returns. But I know people who are making six figures on eBay. It's possible to make six figures in your spare time. I just haven't put the sustained effort in to see that type of return because I'm working on other avenues as well. I also haven't been super as consistent in putting as much effort into it as it would take to make this a viable, sustainable income source. So that's my truth about this particular side hustle. You can see I'm like trying to hide the bookcase behind me because that's like where I store a lot of my notes and receipts and stuff, and they're all in one place, but it's kind of a mess right now. And that's kind of a quick overview of my system and how I do bookkeeping from a high level, and where I put my receipts and whatnot. So this is kind of what's going on. I am taking some time off personally. I have one day, I have a Friday and a Monday that I'm taking off and hoping to use that to kind of recharge a little bit. I can already see that it's kind of been getting a little bit exhausting, so it's good to take that time away, debt-free, paid in cash for just a hotel room down south. So I'm looking forward to that for sure, and kind of getting a new perspective on my business, my income, what's going on. I am also kind of contemplating picking up a couple other side hustles, because I think it would be helpful to have money coming in that I'm not responsible for everything for, and that way I can just chunk that all toward debt. It's kind of a tough balance between building your own business and working for someone else, and getting that side income in. But at this point, I just want something that generates reliable income with the least reliable income with as much effort as I can sustainably manage. So that's where that is. That's what I'm looking at. That's my strategy, and that's my truth about this eBay as a side hustle. So thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions or suggestions, I would love to hear them. Please be respectful. But at this point, I feel like even if I'm moving super slow and not as fast as I would like, I'm moving in the right direction. I'm oriented in the right direction, and I want to give myself credit for that. It's not as gazelle intense as I would like, as Dave Ramsey would say. But this is where I am, and this is manageable for me right now. That may change in the future. I may be able to get super intense, and you never know what would happen. But for me, it's important to keep on this path of heading in the right direction toward debt freedom and prosperity. So thank you again so much for watching, and I hope that you will keep watching. Bye.